All right, so the first step to applying to a college, any college actually, is to figure out what application platform the school utilizes. So in the case of Earlham College, we have two major application platforms. The first and the most common one, where I would say between 90 and 95% of our students ultimately apply through, is Common Application. So Common Application is truly it's truly a really wonderful resource for the prospective student athletes or the prospective students, because as its name would otherwise indicate, it is truly very common. In fact, nearly 650 colleges and universities across the country utilize this application platform. You're going to find big state schools, you're going to find small private liberal arts colleges, and effectively then everything in between. So the idea is that you can fill out one application and then you can submit it to any number of those colleges, again, just using one application. So its strength is truly in the sheer number of schools who utilize it, and just how much it does streamline the application process for our students. Now, our students are asked, well, before you apply on the Common Application, pardon me, there we go, I'm trying to get rid of some of my windows here, you have to create an account. And so then at that point, then you have a Common App account ID number and all that. So you'll have to come up with an email that your account is associated with. So it's really that simple. Really just coming with your username and email and a password, and you're into Common App. So once you're into Common Application, this is the dashboard. These are the main thematic tabs which you can kind of go from. So as we talk about filling out the application, you're going to find that here in the Common App tab. However, when you're like, well, which colleges am I going to submit to? Well, if you click to the college search app, this is where actually you can search for your college, or you can actually also search it by city name. So for instance, if we're looking at Earlham College, well, that's pretty easy. However, if for some reason you're like, it's that school I'm looking at in Richmond, Indiana, let's see, it should pull up here. There it is. Yep, sorry. If you just type in Richmond, well, you'll get all the Richmonds, but Richmond, Indiana right there. So Earlham. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to select any and all the colleges that you are interested in applying to. So after you click one of the colleges, you will kind of get a little bit of a dashboard here, which is going to include some really important things. So for one, our application deadlines. So we have a December 1st early action deadline. We encourage all students to apply by that December 1st early action deadline. We do have a regular decision deadline, which kind of kicks into 2021. Now, if you apply early action, first of all, what is really important for us to note is that no matter when you apply Earlham, it is always free. Whether you are a domestic student or whether you're an international student, it is always free to apply to Earlham. Now, but if you apply by December 1st, you're going to be ensured that you'll be in consideration for our scholarship day, which is actually taking place during February 2021. We're going to have a number of scholarships that we're going to invite students to come to campus and try to earn and compete for. So again, the important date is December 1st. That's our early action deadline. That's by the time December 1st hits, most of the students who become Earlhamites eventually will have already applied, and it is free. So other things that you're going to find on the landing page here, the school's landing page. So again, you're going to get the vital information such as the phone, the fax, the email, and the actual address, as well as things like website and virtual tour, social media links, is again, just the things that we require. So we require a secondary school report, which comes from your guidance office. We're going to review all this here towards the end. So we do require a final report, but some of these things, again, are completely out of the student's hands. This comes automatically from your guidance office, but we do also require a teacher recommendation. So you can submit, we require one, and then there's options, optional spots for two more. So we do require a personal essay, and we do have some college-specific questions, kind of a supplemental question. So again, This is important. So this is my way of kind of relaying what it is that Earlham requires, but you're going to find a page just like this for every single school, because I'm telling you, most schools will have different options and different requirements. So you can add it to your colleges there. So then you can see Earlham has been added to your college list. So let's go back to our dashboard real quick. So as you can see, now Earlham has been added. So that means, in other words, you have officially picked Earlham and you have started your application. So it says your application is in progress. So just by merely selecting the college, your application has started. So if you click on the details button there, you will see all of the things that are necessary and needed to finish your application. So you can start here at the top and add your term or admission plan. And at that point, really at this, you kind of just click fall, your first year, you're looking to enter college in the fall of 2021. And most of our students, again, will decide that they want to choose an early action admission plan. And then just some very light questions. Do you have, are you a US citizen or permanent resident? Most of our students are. And are you graduating from homeschool or receiving a GED? Most of our students are not. Most of our students are just getting the high school diploma, just so that way it's clear. Now, for testing plan, Earlham College is a test score optional school, so you do not have to submit your test score in order to receive both admission or merit-based scholarship. So this is something that you can decide. You can speak to a counselor. However, so we have two options. So include my SAT or ACT, or do not use my SAT or ACT. Now, and if you include your SAT and ACT scores, and your scores are submitted and maybe they're just a little bit on the low end or outside of, like, say, the middle 50% of our students who receive, or for our students who are admitted, say, that actually, we have a do not harm policy for our office. So in other words, your test scores can never harm your admission or scholarship. So at that point, you will be receiving a phone call or a text or an email from one of our counselors to just kind of talk to you about our test score optional policy. Or if you do not think that your test score is a good reflectant of your academic prowess, then you can actually say, do not use my standardized test scores. So, and then whether or not you intend to pursue for need-based aid, you can say yes or no. So then you just continue. And so then at that point, the general questions, you will see anytime you've submitted or finished any section, you'll get a green check mark. So let me kind of, let me just minimize all of these really quick. Come on, there we go. So, okay, there's quite a few here. There's about 7 major areas here that, or excuse me, 6 major areas of questions. So after your general is finished, let's jump into the academics. So again, you're going to pick whatever majors or minors that you'd like, or whatever ones are most interesting to you. Exercise science is a brand new one at Earlham, and we're really excited about. So you will go ahead and you will choose any of your academic interests and share them with us. We ask for that only because that way we can better share with you things that might be interesting from the Earlham side about any one of the programs that you're interested in. But really, after this part, after you do all of these questions, so of course you'll do academic interests. If you have any, like whether you're an athlete, so intercollegiate athletics would be something that you might be interested in, or club sports, or political organizations, or school publications. You can select any number of these for your activities. But after you kind of run through these questions, they're pretty light. You will then jump down to your recommenders. Okay. Let's see. So then here is the steps to finish the application. So it's kind of just reminding me that I haven't finished some of the previous ones. But again, here is the area. Here we go. Let me jump to this area. Pardon me. So I'm sorry, I'm clicking around really quickly here, but again, we're working on our profile. That's where all of our personal information is, and as well as some other biographical information such as your family. But then your education here, this is where you will assign your high school, whatever high school your most recently attended high school is. So whenever you went into that school, if it's a boarding school, or if you'll graduate, and all of that. So again, what you want to do is just fill in as much of your educational background here as possible. Pardon me. Let's see. And let's just do one really quick here. Let's do a sample. So I'm going to use my high school. So I went to R. Nelson Snyder High School in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And date of entry. Oh man, I'm going to use my actual date of entry. How about that? Let's say 8 of 2002. And it's not a boarding school. And I did graduate. Oh boy. Showing my age here. So this is if there was any progression in your, so if you graduated earlier, graduated late, or took a gap year, or if there was no change in your progression. So here we go. You have the opportunity, if you attended other high schools, or if you got dual credit colleges, you can actually put your grades here. This is self-reported. So you can report all of this if you so choose. As it were, Earlham will not count this as an official graduating class size or GPA. We get that from your transcript, which we'll talk about here in a second, but you can absolutely add that to your application if you so choose. Because some bigger schools in particular might take your self-reported GPA as your official. So that is another thing to kind of keep in mind. So you can put your courses that you're currently enrolled in, any honors courses you've taken. If you're involved in a community-based organization like the Boys and Girls Club or the Knights of Columbus, you can leave it. You can fill that out here. Or if you have just what are your future plans? Again, we ask for all this information. That way we just have a better sense of who you are as a student. So whenever you're finished, you can hit continue. And okay. So if you've taken any additional tests, so basically, before you submit your application, it will flag you to tell you just how much, what sections you still need to do. So my suggestion, whenever you're filling this out, and unfortunately, I'm not an incoming first-year student, so I'm kind of skipping around. I apologize, but however, start at the top and work your way all the way through each section. So if we go back here to the dashboard and we show the details, again, you're going to want to start at the very top, the common application part, and then you're going to start with the questions and the recommenders. So as you click on each one of these options, it'll show you all the different subsections, which again, if it's finished, it will say complete here or complete here. Obviously, we haven't completed any of these. And then at that point, you can kind of look at the subsection, see if it has that green check mark, and then you can go from there. Okay, so let me try clicking this real quick. Yeah, I probably shouldn't really do much that, since I'm not a first-year student. I probably shouldn't do any of these release forms, since they wouldn't be necessarily valid, and I don't want to, do any harm here. But again, the idea is, again, that just work your way through the application from top to bottom, basically left to right. So again, and so that is actually how you start your application. And then when you get to the very bottom of it, oops, pardon me, I'm going to go back to my dashboard. You will have the option to submit it once all the requirements are complete and satisfied.
How long does filling all this out usually take for someone?
That's a great question. I have heard students, it takes less than a half hour for some students to start from the top and work their way down. Especially if they're like, students these days are used to filling out these online type of forms. So what I would suggest is if you're going to break it up into a couple different areas or a couple different sittings, that you find like a good logical stopping point. The biggest thing that I would stress is this right here. the Common App personal essay. So when I say that some students, it only takes a half hour for them to complete it, that's probably because they've already been working on their essay. So when you click the Common App essay, we do require it. So at some point, you will have to figure out which prompt you want to choose. So here's some of the prompts. So take this time to write a polished essay. I know it's really tempting to just kind of type it in here and all that. And of course, it will let you know if you've misspelled words and all that. But what I would suggest is find the prompt that you'd like out of any of these and put it in a word processing document. That way you can run it through a proper spelling and grammar check. And then you could just simply copy and paste it into here. But yeah, no, Coach, what I would say is that most students are probably finding that it takes them between, again, if their essay is complete, which of course that's kind of a separate thing, it takes between 30 and I would say 30 minutes and 2 hours to go from top to bottom and get it all filled out. And of course, some of that is just assigning your teacher recommenders, which at that point, once you put in that teacher's email, if you have that already with you, that'll save you some time. So again, putting that in there and then it'll ping their email, their Common App account that like, hey, so-and-so wants you to write a recommendation letter for them. And so at that point, then they can write that for you, but that's not going to hold your application up as far as submitting it, but we'll just wait for that to come through. But really, I mean, it might seem complicated, but trust me, it is actually fairly intuitive. And once you kind of get going, you can literally, again, I hate to use but just top to bottom, section by section. And the best part is that with the exception of the essay, you know the answer to most of the questions you're going to be asked. So, utilize that. And I'm not saying speed through it, but take your time, make sure you answer everything as methodically and as in depth as you can. But again, luckily, fortunately, that's just questions about you and yourself. So take the space to share as much about yourself as you can, because places like Earlham, we read every page of the application. So just to kind of review, we're going to jump out of the Common App portal here. And we're going to just talk again quickly about what we require. But as you know, we accept either the Common Application or the Earlham College application. And so again, as we just saw within that Common Application, you're going to put a lot of your biographical information. You will have a space there for your extracurricular activities. And, it asks you fairly exhaustively a lot about yourself. So don't hesitate to put things, again, that you're passionate about or things that you think are interesting about yourself or cool things you've been able to do. And then in addition to that, we do have a personal essay, as we kind of talked about. So that is the requirement here. And just as a quick note, if you have like extracurricular activity, like you don't feel like you're involved in a lot, or say you just have a lot of family responsibilities, that absolutely counts. And in fact, for some of us, myself included, I like to see when people share, I have to babysit my younger siblings. So I have a job, I play a sport, and I babysit my family members. That's kind of what I did. As the second oldest of 10 kids at home, I did a lot of babysitting. So please share that. And again, when you put your high school guidance counselor's email address, which comes a little bit later in that recommender section that we saw, you're going to put both your guidance counselor email as well as your teacher recommender email. At that point, the guidance counselor actually will submit your transcript for you. So there is a number of steps in this process that actually happen completely independently of you, that happen on your behalf. So we do require a transcript. If you happen to have copies of your transcript or a copy of your letter of recommendation, please send that to our office directly at admission@earlham.edu, because we will actually attach that to your application for you. So that way, hopefully it saves you some time. So if you have these things laying around, or if you have a score report from SAT or ACT, again, admissions@earlham.edu, you will actually, if you send it there, we'll actually put it on your application for you. So we do require a transcript. And again, just to reiterate the point that we are test score optional. So you don't have to submit an SAT or an ACT for merit-based scholarship, or for admission or merit-based scholarship. And we do require a recommendation letter from your teacher and one from your counselor. So again, we should actually probably change this to say secondary school report, because that's what it actually is. It's a secondary school report that your counselor generates on behalf of you. So if you're like me, and I didn't know my counselor at Snyder. In fact, you could have put all the counselors in a line, and I probably couldn't have picked my counselor out. So, however, but the idea is that the secondary school report, which comes from your counselor, has like a lot of the school data and your high school profile and all of that. So the good news is that when you apply for admission, by way of the application, you're automatically applying for merit-based scholarships. And then, of course, we do encourage all of our students to fill out the FAFSA. And if it's not the students, then the students' parents or guardians, whomever who has the most wherewithal to fill out a FAFSA. There's a lot of family financial information that is included on that. And we can actually issue need-based aid as well. So there is that. And again, just to reiterate our deadlines, we have this early action deadline of December 1st. So again, if you're not through with your application by Thanksgiving, fall break is a great time to finish your college applications. And Earlham has a deadline kind of just a little bit after that. And then we do have a regular decision deadline of March 1st, 2021. But again, if you fill out by December 1st, fill out your application and submit it, you will be in priority consideration for an invitation to our scholarship day, as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier on in this video.
Are there any major differences between the Earlham application and the Common App?
That's a great question. So I guess the biggest thing is that the Earlham College application can only be submitted to Earlham. Unlike Common App, it can't be submitted to other schools. However, you're going to be asked to do a lot of the same things. There is essentially the same application in many respects. You're going to be asked to give a lot of your biographical information, your family information. There's a writing sample. The writing prompts are a little bit different, but you will be asked to write an essay. Effectively, they are the same. It's just very traditional that colleges and universities also have their own application platform. So we also have ours, but it traditionally takes students about the same amount of time. What I will say is that the Earlham College application, if this interface, you're like, I really don't like this interface, and it seems like a lot of clicking around and a lot of buttons to push, the Earlham College applications interface will be simpler. So there is that. So if you're just planning on applying using Common App to apply to Earlham, I mean, at that point, you very easily could just jump in and do the Earlham College application, which again is kind of a simpler, less convoluted platform, only because we're the only school using it, not all the other ones. Yes.
Could you give any tips on what people can do to have a better application, and even the essay, how to have a better essay that kind of stands out for them?
Yes, no, that's a great question. So what I always say about the essay, just in general, is that use it for two reasons. Now, of course, first and foremost, you want to show off your proficiency as a writer, but don't hesitate to use the prompt to tell something that was really important to you, or really pivotal, or something that you think is really unique about yourself or about your family, or just something that you think is interesting. Ultimately, I think a lot of students don't think they have those things that are interesting about themselves. I certainly would have been one of those students. And just stop and think. And so I ended up writing mine, something that I was used to growing up. But, obviously, being the second oldest of 10 children is not normal in many respects. So that's actually what I ended up writing my essay about, just how kind of crazy that was. So I know that that's not a great example, because that is legitimately unique in some respects, but don't hesitate to kind of dig deeper and think this is something that I'm really into, or something I'm really passionate about, or something that I think is unique, or even just write about anything, make it as personal as you'd like. And some students will tell stories of awesome, wonderfully cool things that have happened to them. Other students will use a space to talk about something that was really sad that happened to them. And But ultimately, regardless of what path you go down, the idea is that your admission counselor gets a better sense of you, because we want this process to be very individualized, and we want to learn a lot as much about you as we can. So,
How does someone go about figuring out who their admissions counselor is?
man, another great question. So let's actually start at the top. So as we're here at earlham.edu, just click this little admission tab here. There's a wealth of information. Of course, you have athletics, academics, student life, outcomes is right here. So if you want to learn what Earlhamites are doing after they graduate. So, excuse me, if you click the admission tab, first of all, you can visit right here. And if you hit the apply tab or the apply button, you'll be taken to whether you're a first year student, transfer, you can click that. It'll take you to our application. Getting ahead of myself. So let me back up. So we're back here at admission. If you want to contact us. All right. So what you're going to do is, excuse me. First of all, if you just want to see all of our pictures, here's all the admissions staff. So these are all of our counselors. Again, all the folks who are geared to help you with your visits, with your application process, and all that. So the actual question that you're asking, Coach, sorry, is how do I find my admission counselor? Well, let's say right here, you can put your high school right at the top. So again, I'm on the Contact Us tab or the Contact Us page. So if you just put your zip code in and you hit enter, it's going to bring up your admission person. So yes, sorry, not to be vain, but I just knew that was me, so I figured it was easy. So you can absolutely click and get the whoever your counselor, your counselor is, number, as well as email address. And actually, we're redoing these here soon, so we're actually going to have a little video you can click and just to kind of get to know your counselor a little bit better. So again, you can, for instance, here in Richmond, we're 47374. And so that is my colleague, Yulia, who actually does all of our on-campus recruitment programs. So that, Coach, is how you meet your admission counselor.